Peace be upon you, brothers and sisters, present in a Quranic dialogue through our room on the Zoom program, as well as through the live broadcast through our YouTube channel. Today, we have a professor who has often spoken about important religious topics. The topic today is fasting during Ramadan, which is a very important aspect of our religion. The subject of innocence of Al-Nasih, a topic that Mr. Wissam Ishak often discusses on his YouTube channel, where he holds many talks and lectures. This topic greatly enriches those who enjoy following his channel closely. As I mentioned, the topic we are discussing today is the innocence of Al-Nasih. We thank him for accepting our invitation and hosting us. We leave you with Mr. Wissam. Please, thank you. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you, my dear brothers, my followers, and followers of the topic of forgetfulness. Hala. Speaking of the delay that has become a slumber, the month of Ramadan for Muslims, for those who started today and those who will start tomorrow, who started today, they started astronomically because it is impossible to have seen the crescent because the angle does not allow it. The angle of vision doesn't allow it, so today most people want to see the crescent, but it should be very clear to everyone because it's going to be delayed more than an hour after the sun sets. An hour, the crescent will appear unless the areas are cloudy, so much to the extent that they won't be able to see the crescent from the clouds. That's something else. But if there is no clouds today between the crescent with everyone, and tomorrow will be the first day of fasting for me. Now, when we started with the topic of coordination in 1993, it was not at all the topic of determining a month. Fasting is a month, Ramadan Kaimat Beji, but it was a current achievement because it is the reason for proving innocence. The pattern of the accusation against him in the Quranic text, but the bad is an increase in disbelief that is misled by those they disbelieved. They allowed it for a year and forbade it for a year so that they could conniving in counting what Allah had forbidden. When we read it, we read the verse before it that talks about the sacred months and counting the months. And the verse says that there are 12 months for God on the day of the creation of the heavens and the earth, of which 4 are forbidden, that valuable religion, so do not oppress yourselves. I mean, the topic is talking about Al-Nasih, and Amma talks about the sacred months, and Amma talks about several months. We researched, for example, in dictionaries and history, what is the lineage? I mean, this is the seed for us. I mean, this is the beginning of the journey. I mean, the pattern we saw in history. I mean, people say that it is the delay of the sanctity of the forbidden. To travel or make Muharram a halal month, this is from one of the interpretations. Or the analyses, the second opinion said that the Arabs were allowed to leave the Hajj at the time when it is obligatory. It is a duty and they should do it at the time when it is not necessary to manipulate the months of Hajj. Even they kept following this holiday by making the holy month halal if they needed to fight in it, and made halal hairs forbidden too if they need to do that. There is a third opinion that says that in the pre-Islamic era, they used to use nasib as the people of Islam used, and their pilgrimage was going around in the times. The 4 then wanted to do Hajj at the time of realizing their goods, of Adam and leather and fruits and so on. And to prove that on one case, and in the best times and fertile. So learn to press from the neighboring Jews, them and that. About 200 years before the migration, they began doing what the Jews did indeed. They prefer to distinguish between their year and the solar year by adding a month to its months if it was complete, and they would call this act Al-Nasih. Do we not see it in more than one interpretation of what Al-Nasih is? For the commentators and doctors of history like Jawad Ali and Al-Tabari, all historians have written about the subject of Al-Nasih, but the conflicting interpretations made us ask, what is the fabric? Is it really playing around with the sanctity of the sacred months, or is it a month to be added? And they learned this addition from the Jews until it became customary. The lunar calendar aligns with the seasons of the year. We saw that in many lunar calendars worldwide, like the Chinese calendar, the Hebrew calendar, the Babylonian calendar, the Sumerian calendar, the Scandinavian calendar, the calendar of the Central Asian peoples. All their colleges follow lunar calendars, and they all add a full lunar month every 3 years, every 2 years, and 8 months, every specific period of time, until they adjust the solar year with the lunar year. Even the Coptic Egyptians in Egypt have a calendar that is used until today. I mean, it was not left behind. Even the Coptic Egyptians today still use it, especially the Christians in Egypt who still use the Coptic calendar. The Coptic calendar is 12 months every month, 30 days, 30 by 12, 360 days. They have a period of 5 days or 6 days. At the end of each year, they consider it. The days are called the bad days. Even this small month, the dwarf who made it 5 or 6 days, they call it the month of Al-Nasih, which means what they call another name called Al-Nasih. Yes, for us as Muslims, we consider this pattern to be something extra in disbelief and manipulation. In the sacred months and increase in infidelity, we came to ask the Muslims, what are the months of war? We asked the history Shias for Shu al-Haram. We asked Ibn Khaldun, we asked Tabari, we asked Ibn Kathir. We asked all some people say that in the farewell sermon that the Prophet, peace be upon him, did in his year 10 for immigration during Hajj. It is a news about the Master, and he named the free months and months. He named them by their names with a text, the sermon, but I found another sermon that is in another book. The same farewell sermon, but it was not mentioned in it to mention the names of the sacred months at all, that it is Agus al-Qada, Du al-Hijjah, al-Muharram, and Rajab. So their absence in some sermons, for example, in the book of Maghazi, differs his text about what was mentioned in the book of Sahih al-Bukhari, means the same sermon with convergence. One abstract from the names of the sacred months, and the second was named the sacred months in it. Really, that it is, the month is so and so, but even if we go to Tafsir al-Tabari, we find that the names differ. Al-Tabari said that the sacred months are the 20th of Du al-Hijjah, which means after Dhul Hijjah, the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. These 20 days that at the end of the month enter in the hot months and the month that comes after, the argument, which is Muharram, then Rabi, I comes to us, and Rabi too said that this period belongs to the ruined months. Okay, if the Muslims have no agreement, when will you come to poetry? Come and see if he was. What is forbidden during the war months? History will tell you that it is fighting that's forbidden during the war months. I mean, this is an act of ignorance.
It's the ignorant who prohibit fighting in the war months. When ignorance used to forbid fighting, did the Muslims also forbid fighting in the sacred months after adopting Islam? This is the question that needs to be posed. We'll go and see that all invasions that happened in the lifetime of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, or after his death, and the commencement of the era of the rightly guided caliphs who carried out the Islamic conquests, extended Islam's reach during the epoch. In Uthman bin Affan's era, it reached to Tunisia in the west, Egypt and the Levant region, and northwards to Azerbaijan. Until the time when a dispute over the Quranic text occurred, they sent him a message saying during the opening of the manuscripts, people are mispronouncing the Quranic text. The entire nation agreed on one Quran. This occurred in the year 27 AH, when Caliph Uthman bin Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, gathered people to read from one Quran. The borders of his country reached north to Azerbaijan, east to Iran, south to Yemen and Ethiopia. This is the vast area where the conquests reached. His era was characterized by a vast expanse where war was incessant. If you look into all of history, this pattern persists. You can see that in the month of Muharram there were battles, and in the month of Dhu al-Hijjah, battles took place. In the month of Dhu al-Qa'dah, fights happened, and in Rajab, even more battles occurred to the extent of the Battle of Yarmouk between the Romans and the Muslims, which happened in the month of Rajab. When we look at all the sacred months presented before us and examine them, we see that all have witnessed battles. This means that warfare was not forbidden in the new religion, which is Islam, that emerged in the year 610 to 632, during the migration to 632, when the messenger passed away. All those years saw continuous fighting. So, what is forbidden in the sacred months? Are we increasing disbelief by manipulating them? According to the verse text saying, but the postponement is an increase in disbelief. Is this act, which is usually toyed with, declared sacred in one of the sacred months and then profaned, an increase in disbelief? Why does he say that this is considered playing with it? If this act is broken and forbidden, could it be one of the sacred months? After we shook off the dust from the historical books that reached us, it had unfortunately arrived in a distorted, covered, unclear manner. Tragic enough, we have been transferring this data for 1400 years from one to another, not knowing the source or intended recipient. The hadiths illustrate how the transfer took place. The transfer happened 1400 years ago, up until today. All these historians whom we deeply respect and appreciate the work they've done and how they pass this news to us. All right, if they relayed the news they have to us and informed us that the sacred months are forbidden by the Quranic text, meddling with it constitutes an increase in disbelief. Not just disbelief, but an excess of it. All right, if we want to respect the text of the verse, we infer that the Sunnah should constitute 12 months, and that there should be 4 sacred months. So, what's forbidden in these 4 sacred months? Is fighting really prohibited during these periods? Because according to these historical texts, the Muslims never ceased fighting for even a day, neither during the propagation of the faith nor during the Prophet's time in the city. The Meccan period did not involve any fighting, but fighting began during the civil period in the 2nd year of the Hijrah with a battle. The expedition of Abdullah bin Jahsh, which took place in the 1st year of Hijrah, where Abdullah al-Hadrami was killed. Abdullah bin Jahsh was reprimanded for violating the sacred month. The raid led by Abdullah bin Jahsh, which occurred in the 1st year of the Hijrah and resulted in the death of Abdullah al-Hadrami. Abdullah bin Jahsh was rebuked for disrespecting the sacred month. He told him, "I did not prevent you from fighting him in the sacred month," and he was displeased with him, meaning he reprimanded him. So if it is the sacred month, it is truly according to the text of Abdullah bin Jahsh, who says or rebukes the Prophet Abdullah bin Jahsh for engaging in fighting during this time. What happened after the conquest, the orphan mentioned in history? What occurred when the wars began between Muawiyah and Ali bin Abi Talib? May Allah be pleased with him. He sent a message to Muawiyah in which he said, "Come, let's stop the war for just 1 month, which is Muharram." And he arranged a truce in this month, and they ceased fighting for a period of 1 month. Not for 4 months, but just 1 month. And in Muharram, once the forbidden month had ended, he stated that the sacred months were over. Let's commence our combat. Yes, here politics began, the politics of negotiations. We don't want to delve into the details of what transpired. It is merely to shed light on the sanctity of the sacred months. Is it really forbidden to fight, or is the topic forbidden? There is something else noted in the Quranic text. Let's go to Surah Al-Ma'idah. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, at the start, verses 65, 95, 96, and 97, we note that the Lord of the Worlds prohibits hunting on land and discusses sea fishing during the months of war. What does hunting have to do with war? And what does the divine order that we take from Quranic texts regarding prohibiting hunting during the months of war have to do with it if it really is the subject? The topic of prohibiting combat, we observed in history, there was no pause in combat for the entire year or for 1 month. Now let's go see if they really abstained from terrestrial hunting. We witnessed some hadiths that convey that people engaged in hunting. I mean, in one of the hadiths I'm working on today, there's someone who doesn't know the exact reference. but you can look it up on the modern electronic research engine. It says that he killed a snake during the months of war, so he comes to ask if this is forbidden or permissible. He said that the snake tried to attack you, but it didn't attack you, nor did you immediately attack it. I killed her. I mean, is it a matter of self-defense or just for fun or hunting? I mean, even for benefit. So at the end of the conversation, he tells him that as long as you were defending yourself, what doesn't fall on the woman? As for the Muslims, do Muslims today actually forbid the master of righteousness during the months of war if they basically do not know how to determine the sacred months and differ in specifying the free months? Do they know that they must refrain from hunting on land during the burning months? I did not see this issue raised at all by anyone except some people who say or link the issue of the sacred house with the sacred months. I mean, the sacred months are the same as the months of Hajj, and the Lord of the worlds has forbidden hunting only in the holy mosque in Mecca during the Ihram. Now, if during the Ihram, I mean, if I, for example, sold the Hajj, I do not think that I am going to Hajj 3 months before the beginning of Hajj. Today, in 2021 or 2022, if he goes to Hajj, he's on the plane. In the past, they used to go by ship or walk or ride a horse or camel. But I am talking about today. This is a matter of God, and the Lord of the worlds knows that the topics will evolve, and the topic will not become in a day or two. No, it is specified for you in the months of war. 3. Even the Quranic text told you that they are 4. What he told you 3, he told you that 4. War verse 36. All right, the 4 sacred, do they match the 4 months of Hajj? What are the 4 months of Hajj if Ramadan is not one of the months of Hajj? Clear from us Shawwal, Shah al-Qada, and the Hajj. Then we have Muharram. Is Muharram really one of the sacred months of Hajj, or is it outside of them? Or are only the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah and even the last 20 days of Dhul Hijjah not related to Hajj? 2 months and 10 days. Okay, if 2 months and 10 days with 28, and if Dhul Hijjah, Dhul Qada, and Muharram are among the months of Hajj and the forbidden months, why is Rajab, which is separate from them and comes after them, not famous? Why doesn't it have a month of Hajj? It's not like the months of Hajj. Okay, why does it come alone, and why is it forbidden, and why is it an individual? Many questions have been asked about the subject of what the sacred months are, what is forbidden in them. Are they sequential or not? Are they the months of Hajj, or are they months that have nothing to do with Hajj or war? We looked more, did more analysis, researched history more, and found out that the months of Hajj, or in the Grand Mosque in Mecca, are forbidden for fighting. Fishing is forbidden all year round, guys. I don't mean a day or two. You are in the Grand Mosque in Mecca. As soon as you enter the Meccan sanctuary, everything is forbidden for you, whether you are on pilgrimage or not. Hello, they call it Hajj and Umrah. You are going to the area of the Grand Mosque in Mecca. If you are there, it is forbidden for you to hunt, and it is forbidden for you to fight. You fight all year round over all 12 months, not just 4 or 1 or 2 days a year. No, all year round. Therefore, everything is forbidden in this place known as the sacred house. It's referred to as the sacred house or the holy mosque in Mecca because everything is forbidden there all year round without a specific time. Meaning after the 10th of Dhu al-Hijjah, you don't see people venturing outdoors with rifles to hunt pigeons or locusts. For I believe there's nothing else but pigeons and locusts in the area. I haven't seen any deer, and no one has told me there are deer, lions, or predators in the area. During Hajj, I haven't heard such things. I don't know if you have additional news or information to share with us. We're trying to examine the topic of forbidden months as there are 4 of them, and there are 4 months of Hajj. We've seen 2 months and 10 days, which is actually more, forgive me. Okay, what are the 4 months of war and what is forbidden during them? We've seen that the Quranic text acknowledges that the prohibition concerns hunting on land. As the liberation relates to hunting on land, it clearly signifies there's a reason for prohibiting hunting on land. The Lord of all worlds would not prohibit land hunting without just cause. If he wishes to forbid it, it doesn't follow a recognized or applied calendar. Months in seasons, so the prohibition means what has a purpose. The calendar must be fixed until the months come in a fixed time, which is the time of reproduction and birth of animals, meaning that you do not prohibit hunting on land except to preserve hunting on land. Meaning the reason that you have prohibited his work. For some reason, I swear this group breeds. They multiply at a specific time. It's springtime for them, okay? If it's springtime for them, for me, I can't evaluate these months. Why isn't it synced with their birth cycle, even if he wants to deny them? I swear I'm forbidding the leader of virtue to take care of his children because this is a season. But I'm looking at Arabic, thanks. None of it applies to the season. Here we are today. Today we're starting the first month of Ramadan, and as a language, Ramadan is from Ramadi or Ramda. Ramdar is intense heat, but Ramadi with a Ya is the first rain that comes after the intensity of the war. The first path, okay? As long as it's from the first rain of autumn or from the intense heat of Ramadan, why is the day coming at the beginning of April, which is the beginning of spring? Now you're hearing me here and hearing the sound of birds around him. These birds are building their nests. Now we are in the spring here in California. We are in the spring. I don't know if you have winter or fall now. Autumn is there. The southern countries are at the same time as us today. We have now, for example, Australia or Argentina or South Africa. Really, they have autumn, and today is the first day of autumn. And the equinox is happening. If today we start fasting Ramadan or tomorrow, this fast really wants to be 12 hours on the globe. All of it can live in the north, the far north, in the Scandinavian regions, in Sweden, in Ireland, in any northern region, or even in Canada. Or if you are a resident of the south, Chile, Argentina, or South Africa, meaning Africa. Everybody possibly lives in the north, the extreme north in the Scandinavian regions, or Sweden, or in Ireland, or any northern region, or even in Canada. Or if you are an inhabitant of the south, Chile, Argentina, or South Africa. Africa. Zila, all southern regions also have a 12-hour fast, but they have autumn, and for us, we have spring. This distinction is that while we are in the spring, we should be in the sacred months, as this is the season of animal telepathy for us. However, for them, it will be outside of the sacred months. And if any of their animals breed in our spring, they migrate. You will see them migrate from their regions to our spring regions to mate. For instance, in Syria, we have the bird of teeth, the baiji that comes from South Africa to us in spring during this particular month of April. This bird, the swallows, travel to Damascus and start to breed. We have this bird, we respect it immensely and we don't hunt it or disturb it. In fact, it even joins us to eat at the table. I remember when we were kids, we used to sit outside, lay out breakfast, and the sunbird would come over to the table and dine with us. We'd feed it with our hands. It's quite large, not like small roses, but it's fond of people and knows that humans won't harm it. So it joins us at the table. The fascinating thing is the stability of seasons over the months. We know that the solar and lunar years differ by about 11 days. The solar year being 365 and a quarter days, and the lunar year is 304 days. If you subtract the two, you get about 10.87, which is nearly 11 days per year. In 2 years, it becomes 22. 1 year, 11 days, 2 years, 22 days. All right, in the third year, it becomes 33 days. Now, before it becomes 33 days and when it actually becomes 30 days, we see that in the third year's 8th month, the difference truly amounts to a full lunar month. This full lunar month we've discovered here in this analysis, element 4, is that the Arabs, implying that the Arabs were learning from the Hebrew women 200 years prior to Islam, and they used to add a month just like the Jews add a month to their calendar. So, let's see how the Jews do it. Let's go and see that the Jews really do align every 3 years at the site of March. When there's a month among them called March, they go and add a second month called Azar every 3 years. The second time also is 3 years apart. However, the third time doesn't equal 3 years. It's 2 years later, meaning within 8 years there are 3 additional months. They're added over a period of 3 years, then 3 years, then 2 years. This is their manner of applying the message. Did the Arabs indeed learn this from the Jews and apply it in the same way? No, let's see that the Arabs didn't apply this in a different manner. Even the name of the month, Al-Nasih, has 3 names in Arabic, 3 names in the forgotten Hebrew poetry. They have only one name for it. Only the one known as Azar by the Arabs, who they call Rajab Rabi'ah when he ranks 5th. The month of Rajab is harmful when it is associated with the number 9. A month they call the greatest pilgrimage when it ranks 13. This is the subject of the greatest pilgrimage, also mentioned in the text of Surah Tawba. In the agreement between the Meccan polytheists and Muslims, the beginning of Surah Tawba specifies the consecutively sacred months that are celebrated together, which are the most famous tourism months. So there will be abundant space on earth for 4 months. If the sacred months also rise like night and day, and the division of a complete unit and not into separate units, the 4 months that were discarded are the sacred months which make up the treaty period amongst fighters or polytheists. One incident occurred in the 9th year of Hijrah. The treaty at the start of the year lasted for 10 days. If you read the verses, you'll see these are indeed the verses. During the pilgrimage of Abu Bakr al-Siddiq in the 9th year of Hijrah, verses were revealed. The greatest pilgrimage saw the revelations of verses, and the treaty took place at the end of year 9, assuming these months came after. After the end of the greatest pilgrimage begins a span of 4 months. These 4 sacred months persisted. Any violations to these 4 months allowed for fighting, so if the sacred months are broken, kill the polytheists wherever they're found. A treaty lasting the duration of the sacred months marked the end of a battle. In history, there is no information on the battles between Muslims and Meccan polytheists that took place at the dawn of the 10th year. Unfortunately, you will not find conclusive news on this topic, with the only available details being of a secret mission sent by the Prophet in a year. There was a presence in the 10th year. Khalid bin Walid sent him to the Christians in Najran. It was the only secret that occurred in the 10th year, not a battle at all, and the people of Mecca did not enter at all. No one entered into anything. He came up with the topic of repentance and the pact between the polytheists and the Muslims. I mean, at the time when they were lost in history and didn't know how to prove where the battle in the 10th year occurred, they didn't find anything else and concluded that this is what happened in the 10th year. You should know, brothers, meaning this topic will continue to be discussed along with other side topics. The battle that happened in the 10th year, I mean, it's going to be a surprise for everyone. It's the conquest of Mecca that historians mark for the 8th year. It did not happen in the 8th year, but happened in the 10th. In my book, The Innocence of the Relative, I demonstrated and proved that the conquest of Mecca happened in the 10th year and nothing else. All of this is a side topic that we will discuss later in a separate episode. I mean, today we're talking about the innocence of the relative. We've seen that the relative misunderstood that word in history. We tried to approach the topic of what is evil. We've realized that the pattern is in fact a calendar month. Now, we don't want to delve into more detail so that you also understand that it is also the forbidden evil because it manipulated people. His sanctity is evidence that it is forbidden, meaning they legalize it for a year and forbid it for a year to match its number, what God has forbidden. So if it is forbidden, in their analysis, it has a month of the breeze they legalize for a year and they forbid. So it is a forbidden month, but it is not one of the sacred months. If it was one of the sacred months, the Lord of the worlds would have talked about the sacred months, and he did not. He only talked about Messiah, and the sacred months are mentioned in the verse before it, that they are the 4 in a row. Okay, this is the pattern in particular, which is 1 month, which is the calendar month, that people learned from the Hebrews to organize their year so that their year matches the seasons of the year. Thus, the months are maintained in the places of the sacred months within the year in the breeding season of animals. Yes, now you started to clarify the picture. Okay, if we manipulate the sanctity of this month or the sanctity of the sacred months, that means we entered into a growth in your mind. Okay, how after Islam, right after the verse, the intercalation was immediately cancelled, and the young man cancelled the calendar, and we no longer know what the sacred months are or what is forbidden in the sacred months, because the pagans used to forbid fighting. did the Muslims forbid fighting? No, the pagans used to forbid hunting, specifically land hunting. And there are many scenes, even in history, you will find, I will bring you evidence that shows the prohibition of land hunting during the sacred months, and that people indulged in hunting, and people came and asked what they should offer, and so on. This news is all present in history, so people know that the prohibition of land hunting is one of the taboos that exist from the months. Is it identical to the sacred month, or the sacred month is one thing and the sacred months are another? Since the forbidden poetry, which is the individual who is the pattern that comes in 3 sites a year, which comes in the 5th or 9th or 13th place, why does he come in the 3 ranks? Because every 2 years and 8 months. If it were every 3 years, really like the Jews do, it comes in one place, 12 years, 12 months, 12 months. It is 3 times a year he comes at the same angle, in the same months, in the same season. But when he comes every 2 years and 8 months, every time he comes late 4 months the second time, it is late 4 and 4. Before they became 8 months this time. The third is late 4 and 4 and 4. I go back to the same area where he started. It means if we divide the year for 3 pieces every 4 months, you find the pattern comes at the head of all these areas. The 3, which is every 4 months. So we find that sometimes it comes between 4 and 5 months. And it comes in the month 8 and 9. And it comes between the 12th and 1 month, which are 5, 9, 13, the time of the month that comes and returns the seasons and matches the names of the months. Because if we go to see what are the names of the months, by the way, before Islam and before canceling the month, the bad thing, the Arab year used to start with the 2 travels. I mean, the first travel and the second, and this topic is also explained even in my book and its colleges and historical citations, that really the year used to start with the first book and the second travel, then the first spring. Traveling there in Yemen region, there are commercial centers called Zero, since it is a winter trip. She used to come from Yemen, so she used to open those markets in Yemen. So he called the 2 travelers relative to the commercial centers that used to open in Yemen and were also whistling people. From Hajj, I mean the whole region of Mecca closes, or the commercial centers that are in it close to the end. Hajj is in Dhul Hijjah. So all the people go to the Safrain area, which is in Yemen. The travel for 2 months, these markets open in the first spring and the second spring. The beginning of spring, because the Arabs used to divide their year into 6 seasons and not 4. Like what? We are equal to it now. Even this topic is all in history. I mean, he has a month of them, Quaif month. Spring is the month of winter, the month of cold now from the seasons. I mean, I'm talking about the 2 springs. The 2 springs are at the beginning of spring, as we saw. Even the sacred months start for a geographical area. It starts in the 2 travels and the 2 springs like this. The 4 months of war, the 2 travels, and 2 springs. These are the period of the sacred months for me residents, the Arabian Peninsula region. Now, we can't apply this information to the people who are sitting in the south. The globe is like Argentina and New Zealand. Every country is like a calendar for itself, naming its famous individuals for itself. For us, the verses form the topic for the Arabic calendar. It is a holy calendar within the Quranic verses. Only the month of Ramadan is singled out, meaning from all the months, only the topic of the month of Ramadan was mentioned. Hello, Benji, we say. What is the cause of this month's occurrence in the Quranic victory and the non-occurrence of the second months in this victory? And we see that the Arab months, for the people who were present, correspond to the seasons of their months. Hence they called the two springs for the flowering of their flowers. Does this imply that the flowers in Argentina should bloom in our two springs? This is not what this intended. This is a question as if he's trying to twist our words. No, every geographical location in the world has the right to discern when their animals breed and can designate 4 months abstaining from hunting to ensure the welfare of their wildlife. Argentina is different from regions like Egypt or Jordan. Each geographical place has varied coordinates and different climates. Hence, the Quranic text did not specify the names of the forbidden in the text. This isn't from oversight. Indeed, there is no oversight in the Quranic text. A hadith comes, a farewell mix, and confirms for you that the months are Dhu al-Hijjah, Dhu al-Qada, and Muharram. Now, why were these not specified in the Quran? Why are there 4 haram that he didn't identify? It's because the restriction on hunting land isn't universal. Hunting rules will differ around the globe. If every nation's geography differs from another, it can define those months according to the animal's reproduction during prohibition. Like we mentioned, we started defining the matter of forgetting only to save the sacred months, because if you look closely at it, you will see it's an increase. Disbelief is the breaking of the holiness of the sacred months. This violation of the sacred months was considered an increase in disbelief, according to the Quranic text. But if we remove the month that governs the year and brings back the seasons to the months, considered it the damned, and considered that it's an increase in disbelief, we would eventually paralyze and execute it. We left out what we settled and entirely ruined the months of war. This non-reversible action wrecked the lunar calendar, provided that it corresponds with the seasons. We destroyed the calendar, meaning we destroyed the relative by ruining the relative. Because we based the right on the pattern, knowing that the Quranic text is clear, it tells you not to exceed the sanctity of the sacred months, because hunting on land is forbidden during the sacred months. The subject must be seasonal. The months must align with the seasons. If the pattern fixes the months with the seasons, removing it means we have completely destroyed the sanctity of the sacred months. In other words, we did the opposite. So, should we continue what we're doing today or save the sacred months? One must stop hunting on land during the sacred months, and the Quranic text must be respected.
What we contribute to increases disbelief because of who we are today. We are intensifying in disbelief. However, the creation itself is innocent. We are the ones who violate the sanctity of the earthly months. The book is innocent. Forgiveness is now available and free, and you can visit my website of forgiveness on YouTube to get the book for free. You can go on YouTube to obtain the book for free. The lecture finished today? Hopefully forgiveness is indeed innocent, as the title of today's session is The Innocence of the Format. However, anyone who wants to learn more about the subject, study it more, read the book, or go on Al-Muni on YouTube. Al-Muni has more than 113 videos discussing the topic of the book and other subjects. Of course, today we are discussing the topic of Christ's innocence. Thank you for your follow-up. Thank you, you're always welcome. Thank you, Mr. Wissam, for this effort and these wonderful, exciting ideas. I believe, in my opinion, of course, we need to change a lot of things that the new generation looks like, or my generation, and what came before me and what. Then he noticed that there was a defect in the ideas attributed to religion in a large scale, and he began to search for corrections and new opinions that attempt to restore the concepts about Islam and religion and the Qur'an to their natural course. And I believe the efforts supplied by Wissam in this subject are also interesting and worth noting. And as the professor said, I invite those who want more from this topic or who want clarification, because the time is short. I do not think he has covered all aspects of the subject. Whoever wants more, his informative website is rich in films, meetings, questions, answers, as well as his book, which can be downloaded for free. For those brothers in attendance who want to participate with questions, they can raise their hands from within the Zoom program. You can raise your hand in the Zoom program so that we notice, and we can also give him the chance to speak sequentially. Raise a hand from within the Zoom program. The first to overlap, Mr. Mortada. Mr. Mortada, if you could kindly turn on the video and give your input. Peace be upon you. We thank the professor for this valuable lecture that I want to know from the esteemed professor. When was the change in months? I mean, they abandoned the old months and entered these new ones. In which era did this occur? Was this in the times of the Prophet, or during the Abu Bakr era, or the Omar era, or the Ali era, or perhaps the Umayyad era? That's my first query. My second question to the teacher is about synchronizing. So you mentioned that we should intercalate a month every 28 months. How does this process work? Is it still mandatory? Are we required to observe Ramadan in the 9th or 10th month, for instance? Professor Wasim, thank you very much. Please proceed, Professor Wasim, Professor. Thank you, my brother. My dear brother, and thank you, Brother Murtada, for your fantastic queries regarding when we stopped following the old format or observing the ancient month during our studies since 1943. My father and I found some interesting things. We encountered a hiccup while studying history and examining historical places or wars that transpired in history. Was it accurately recorded in the historical calendars or not? Did the discrepancies in time periods start to occur? Because when you want to stop using the old format, there's a systematic displacement of 11 days each year. It's like you're measuring a distance.
Scale in centimeters, then you might want to continue in inches. Because when you were adding the month, the format means your year became 365 days. When you stopped using fabric, your year fell to 354 days.
This difference is in the time scale, just like the difference in the length scale. Are you using centimeters or inches? Are you using a solar or lunar year? You began to clarify for us the places and times. What were the battles? We stumbled at the first hurdle. We thought it was the first time that in the year 1149 AH there was a battle. Employing the bad poetic form, this was during the storm of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. The second time we said no was in the 81st year of the Hijri calendar during the reign of Abdul Malik bin Marwan. People removed a month from the calendar. However, today it's clear to us definitively that Muslims are not divided into two groups. One group that kept using the old intercalation system, and a group that stopped under an order from the head of state. This happened in the 17th year of the Hijra during the era of Omar bin al-Khattab. But there was a group of Muslims who didn't approve of the elimination of intercalation, and they even continued to document some history blogs. I met with Brother Abdullah Aye al-Lalkai in Istanbul, and we had several sessions together. He showed me more than one historical reference proving that there were people who kept using the intercalation for 40 years after the Hijra, entering the era of Muawiyah from Abu Sufyan. However, not everyone who followed the topic of intercalation did this, but only a very small group. We can say that they were a group that departed from the Mu'tazila or from the Kharijites. I mean, they withdrew from the state meeting about the caliphal age that happened at the meeting of the Sunnah and the group in the era of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. However, this shows us that 95% or 99% of the people obeyed the order in the 17th year of the Hijra during the era of Omar bin al-Khattab. We know that altering or meddling with the calendar is a topic that ought not be trifled with by someone who is not an expert. However, it must come from the head of state, specifically the President of the Republic. The king or Khalifa is the one who can, or the emperor is the one who can alter the use of the calendar or tamper with it, add a month or not add a month. This action doesn't come from individuals, rather from kings, royal decisions. I mean, for instance, about us they tried to alter the calendar more than once from 2016 to this day till 2022. They attempted to alter the calendar multiple times, but through a royal edict, not a decision from the People's Assembly, no, a royal decree. Till now, people have adhered to the Gregorian calendar globally with international and presidential decisions. I mean, when Japan decided that they would follow the Gregorian calendar, in the year 1924, it was instituted by a decree of the Emperor of Japan and not in the Japanese People's Assembly. No. And the same is true for all countries. Therefore, historical texts don't mention people who tampered with history or the calendar, except during Omar bin al-Khattab's era in the year 17 of immigration. They said that
Indeed, 13 items were brought forth from that meeting, and I've proved in my book what these 13 points that were tampered with in that conference were, including the abolishment of the intercalary month. It's considered from the read verse that this intercalation is an increase in disbelief. But why is it an increase in disbelief? No one can validate from the verse that this intercalation is indeed an increase until it's eliminated and he gets accused of such a charge and discards it. Even after it's discarded, we still have the astronomical calendar left. As for his second question, how do we add the intercalary month, my esteemed rank? It's the time when there's a disparity or divergence, which we call azdalaf, an Arabic term. Azdalaf implies a difference in something, meaning the variance between the two times of solar and lunar calendars. In the first year it will equal to 11 days. We can't add days since we're following the lunar calendar. We must add a lunar month when the difference equals a lunar month every 2 years and 8 months. Every 2 years and 8 months we call it Rajab Rabia once, then Rajab Mudar, and then Muharram. The names of the months must be reset to the two travelers because Muharram does not occur every year. However, now it does, since the bad thing was removed and Muharram was fixed at the beginning of each year. In terms of adding the month, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to ask. Yes, our next speaker, Mr. Hashem Ab. Mr. Hashem, you're up. Welcome, Mr. Hashem. Peace be upon you, Mr. Wissam. You're discussing the universality of Islam. Obviously, it's something beautiful, and we all agree on this, and from that, you conclude that there's a flaw in the fasting period being different for people across the globe. But we can't forget that the Qur'an was revealed in the confinement of the Arabic language, and no one argues about that. Of course, Islam was also revealed within the confines of the Arabian Peninsula. Therefore, the time of fasting is according to the theory. I say theory, not trust, as this professor explains his theory. It's all theories, and they could be wrong. Therefore, in his opinion, the time of fasting was in May and ends in June, and Muslims should adapt to that. Now, I agree with Professor Ishak that the Hijri calendar is not suitable as a calendar since it's purely lunar. However, I explain in my book that it's not a calendar at all, but a system for counting time, a precise system for counting time. But it's not a calendar because in every civilization on Earth, a calendar should have set the time. I mean, it's about regulating time in conjunction with the climate seasons to specifically manage human economic relations. So I don't generally agree with him. He's changing Islamic history and our understanding of it to fit his theory, which I don't believe is right. The prohibition of bad came for an incredibly important reason for the Quran. The Quran forbade bad without any resources, hence he cannot be as innocent as your guest claims. I have another theory, and I emphasize it's just a theory. It adheres to the historical scientific method. I need more time, more than 5 minutes, not an entire lecture to explain my theory because it's so diversified. As you saw from what Mr. Ishak said, there's a lot of confusion surrounding the topic of forgetting. I wish I had the chance to explain my theory in a setting like this. In short, bad is forbidden. This is my theory. People are forbidden, and forbidden. Why is it forbidden? Because the way Quraysh adjusts bad timing is similar to how we adjust in the Gregorian calendar. In the Gregorian calendar, we add 1 day every 4 years in February. But why? Because the Gregorian year, which is 365 days, lasts shorter than the physical year, which lasts 365 or more. I have another theory, again a theory that follows the historical scientific method, and I need more than 5 minutes. I don't need a full lecture to explain my theory due to its complexity. As you saw from Professor Ishak's speech, I mean, there are many factors mixed in the topic of Al-Nasih, and I wish I had the opportunity to briefly explain my theory in a session like this, in brief. Al-Nasih is forbidden. This is what I state in my theory. People are forbidden. And why is it forbidden? Because the method of pressing Quraysh is similar to what we do in the Gregorian calendar. I mean, in the Gregorian calendar, we add a day every 4 years in the month of February, because the Gregorian year consists of 365 days. Its duration is less than the physical year, which lasts approximately 365 and a quarter days. So every 4 years, the solar year starts with one less day. So we add a month. That's what Quraysh used to do, of course. Quraysh didn't exist in a vacuum. I mean, we should mention that the Yemeni civilization was a great civilization, and the Himayarite civilization, which was highly influential and was purely Jewish, spread across the Arabian Peninsula around 450 AD or more. Even its influence was found in nearly all parts of the Arabian Peninsula. Then it came. The tribe of Canada, which witnessed a significant influence from Judaism. The intercalation that Quraysh carried out was a pressure operation over the years, much like what we report in the solar year, but it was about an increase of a full month because it is a lunar calendar. Thus, I believe that the prohibition of intercalation was not a general prohibition, but a prohibition specifically directed at Quraysh because of the close relationship of this method to idol worship. This I explain in my book. In short, Quraysh knew when they had to add a month to the months of the year. One of the guests asked Quraysh before intercalation, when will Nasiya month be added? He would add the month of Nasiya after the pilgrimage for Quraysh, after confirming that the day of the summer solstice should fall in the month of Shawwal. I try to prove this in my book through drawings. When I mean the relationship between sunset and sunrise on the day of the summer solstice from certain specific locations in relation to the pilgrimage rituals, for example, if we draw a straight line between Arafat, the Haram, and the Kaaba, we will find that it is a straight line, one that is all located on a straight line in an amazing way, even though the distance between them is 22 kilometers. And where this line flows toward the sunset point on the day of the summer solstice, it is strange. If then we draw a line between the middle Jamra and the great Jamra or Jamra al-Aqaba, we find that this line also flows towards nation sunset and summer solstice. And this habit we see like it, for example, in Petra and the Nabateans, of course. For them, we find that they have a great influence on the religions of Quraysh because, for example, the gods had the same names, they worshipped the sun, and we find that their temples were also designed to correspond to the sunset or sunrise of this fabric is haram. With worshippers of the sun in a special form, and also there were other idols for this, Ramadan must fall according to his theory in the 1st of May and ends in June, the months explained by Mr. Wissam. It is mentioned in Al-Biruni, but Al-Birun rejects it, and Al-Birun, of course, is one of the giants of history, and he is maybe the first. A person who has written a book so far has its importance in the matter of dates, so he explained the names of the months, exactly as it corresponds to the occurrence of Ramadan in May and June. The addition of the month of Anseh was coming in. After Dhul Hijjah in Quraysh and before Rajab in Medina, as the biblical Jews used to do. And this I mean regarding the Prophet, he did not fall into the problem of increasing in disbelief, because I discussed a lot with people, they used to say how to be bad, and the Prophet lived. And he forbade women in the 10th year of migration. This means that the Prophet practiced abuse, so why there would never be any offense, but the Jews in the city would be more famous at that time, by the way. The Jews used to increase their month by making sure that the feast of the Passover is the feast of the Passover. The Jewish Passover that falls on April 15th should not have occurred before.
He presents the topic as he wishes, and we will discuss it according to the points he wishes to raise. If anyone has questions for him, please proceed. Any others? Mr. Ghalib Al-Ruwaili, Mr. Galib, please proceed. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. I thank the attendants in this important lecture. Certainly, in most of us, I mean in the Arab world or the Islamic world, the concept of forgetting is new. But there's this thing, I mean, I'm surprised by Mr. Abed that making the religion Qatari means only working in one region, which is the Arabian Peninsula, and this is the biggest mistake. It is a mercy for all the worlds, and therefore anything that my Quran manages should be for all people and for all the world, not for a certain category of people. This is in reference to Mr. Abed, and I appreciate his intervention, I mean, in the present topic. I want to, if he wants to add to Mr. Wissam, what are the consequences of returning the forgotten and working with it? There are 4 things here. If he wants to increase or correct it, let Mr. Wissam do it. The consequences of returning the return of the forgotten and working with it once more, which are night and day, I mean, the first consequence is the equality of night and day in most regions of the globe. And this means that people will fast Ramadan equally among themselves, which occurs in the 9th month in the autumn equinox, when the sun is perpendicular to the equator. And I think this is a global requirement and not a limited one. The second benefit is knowing the months in which hunting is prohibited, as the Nusu identifies the months of the haram in each region when the animals begin to multiply and reproduce. I believe this information has instinctively reached non-Muslims, and we are still investigating this topic, meaning Muslim countries are still discussing hunting prohibition issues, despite Europe, America, South Africa, and other countries have already grasped this information. Discussing the issue of hunting prohibition, even though Europe, America, other countries, and South Africa have understood this information, which the Lord of the Worlds mentioned several times in the Holy Quran, and hunting is forbidden to you, and you are forbidden. We haven't fully understood this verse yet, and we are still opposing everyone who attempts to alter the Nusu and add to it, to extend it beyond the 12 months of the year. The third benefit is knowing the planting seasons, dear sir. My grandfather passed away at the age of 128 years, and he did not rely on any day of the lunar Hijri year. He relied on the stars and the solar calendar for the time of planting, harvest time, watering time, and the planting time of the different types of crops. Every farmer on earth benefits from this. The Hijri calendar, if the formula is taken from it. The fourth thing is knowing about navigational weather conditions. Air and maritime navigation fully depend on wind direction. If we rely on the lunar calendar without adding the formula, there's no need for air navigation. Is what you said accurate, Mr. Wissam? God reward you. The microphone is yours. Thank you. Thank you, Captain Galib. Captain Galib is a pilot captain. I've known him for a long time. We have known each other for more than 10 or 15 years, and we're friends. I also met him in Egypt. During my visit to Egypt last year, we met for almost an entire week. We were discussing coordinating matters, and he has full understanding of the topic. The 4 points he clarified were very strong points. I would like to add a 5th point, which is trade discipline.
Air and sea, and talked about the seasons of agriculture, and talked about knowing or determining the sacred months and refraining from hunting in it, is that every country must have knowledge of their rituals. And as for fasting Ramadan month, on the days of moderation, and not in the month of May or June, as Brother Haitian Abad said before, It's a little that this is the best time for whom is the month of June and the month of May this month. These are the months of the end of spring in the northern section and the end of winter in the southern part of the bowl. The earth has no moderation. There is no topic of perpendicularity of the sun with the equator, so that the fasting period is 12 hours in all and in all the globe. I thank Brother Gallup. On the presentation of the 4 topics, I add the topic of trade, the subject of trade. The Arabs are famous. They were in that, the time in the winter and summer trips and the trade that they used to do in the summer and winter. The caravans of the Arabs used to go to the Levant to bring summer crops and go to Yemen region, and it brings winter crops from Yemen. These 2 trips, the winter and summer trip, was disciplined with the presence of the month. When the month was lowered, the trade stopped, the trip stopped. The trade trip stopped. Why? Because the markets are no longer opening, but the markets have no weapons. I mean, it's the hair of the moon. And dates do not have to follow the seasons of cultivation and the incompatibility of the seasons of cultivation or industry. With the seasons of opening the commercial markets, because of the mismatch of those markets and the openness of those markets with the seasons of the year, the last commercial market that was closed in the year 173 AH, they have and said that they want to open the commercial markets. At that time, but the lack of goods means that the markets are opening but free of weapons. Every 33 years, the correct season comes back until it opens in the markets and things are there. I mean, the goods were available at that time. I thank Brother Galib for raising the 4 topics on the subject of trade only and nothing else. And even in my book, I explain the topic of negatives, that it happened from the removal of the forgotten month, and the economic impact was an effect that destroyed the trade of the area of the island, and the markets that used to open in it. Trade was forced to go to the Basra region, and this is something that historically weakened the Umayyad dynasty and showed the value of the Abbasid state in the area of Iraq and Basra. And this is what supported the emergence of the Abbasid state, basically. Even, I mean, I cited the history and the reasons that called for the direction of trade to that area, and even the Silk Line today, known today, kept heading north to the emergence of the Ottoman Empire. When the lines started passing from the Istanbul area, and this topic is explained in my book, B, in a way.
Kamal, and explains the move of the World Trade Center from Mecca to other countries such as Baghdad, for example, the country Ottoman. Until today, today we find that it is the World Trade Center. Today in America, the World Trade Center was located in Mecca.
while the Arabs followed the pattern when they started not to follow the bad ones. The calendar differed with them. The trade and agriculture were gone, and the sacred months and the seasons of the equinoxes. I did not know when the moderation would come. I mean, all things were when they disappeared from the scene. We have declined economically and even militarily. Thank you, my brother Galib, for your intervention and for your presentation. Thank you, teacher Wissam, before I come back and give the role to the brothers Mortada, and most of it is considered a participation, and I would like to share my opinion. Ask 2 questions quickly that something increase in disbelief is forbidden by a year and analyzed by a year. Why did the Quran mention the word increase in disbelief? If it is blasphemy, what is the need to add the word increase? This indicates or suggests from the appearance of the verse that the bad thing is blasphemy itself, but the process of prohibition and the analysis is the increase in disbelief. It is blasphemy in the first place, and the process of prohibition is an increase. So what do you think about the case? The increase, the second point with the word increase in disbelief. What is your explanation in this matter or your opinion? The second point, the verse says they deprive him for a year and allow him a year. This refers to the succession in years, while it says that bad every 3 years or every 2 years or 3 or 4, while the verse, it indicates or suggests something else, that it is repeated year after year from the context of the verse. So what? Your opinion on this problem? Thank you, my brother Arif, for your questions. 2 very, very questions. Knowing that it is 2 questions, I mean, I asked them in more than one video at Almona on my channel, and I answered them. But briefly here in our lecture, I mean, I will not enlarge the topic, and I am briefly, who likes to increase can always read the book or attend the lectures on my channel for reading the line, or when was forgetting forbidden, if the verse was really read as we read it today in reading Haf's novel from a scene. But the bad is an increase in disbelief, that those who disbelieve will mislead him and solve it years and deprive him a year to collude with him what God has forbidden, if really this verse was revealed in this way. It was supposed not to postpone the increase of removing the bad month from the calendar to a year 17 for immigration, or 41 for immigration, or 51 for wages. I mean, the forgetfulness must be removed per year in which the verse was revealed. I mean, the verse, we know that it was revealed in the 9th year of the Hijrah, or in the year 10. I mean, between the year 9 and the year 10, and the Prophet is the one who received the message. So it must be that he implements the concept of the message. So why was the month postponed until after the death of the Prophet Allah? Some people say to me, I swear to God, what did you know that the Prophet did not remove him unless he forgot, and he forgot after a while. There is historical evidence and historical facts that happened during the mission and happened after the death of the Prophet to year 15 of the Hijrah proves that the months were fixed there. All this evidence is with the sons. In the book from the battles of the Battle of Yarmouk, the Battle of Tabuk, the Battle of Badr, a secret battle, Abdullah bin Qult, Battle of Khalid Bold, who named it to a name that I missed from my mind, but also Yarmouk is only Yarmouk, 15 camels in Basra. The site is important in all these battles, so we go to see the weather in some battles. After the events that happened, who does not agree that Rajab is always in the intensity of the heat and Ramadan is always in the beginning of autumn? For example, the great battle of Badr happened on the 17th of Ramadan during his return. The caravans of Bani Quraysh from the Levant carry barley and raisins to the Levant, so we go to the converter without a relative. We see that 17 Ramadan in the second year of immigration happened in March. And this thing is not true. The caravans of Bani Quraysh from the Levant do not return loaded with barley and raisins and wheat from the Levant in the month of March. But after the end of the summer and the beginning of the Caliph, if Ramadan, it was at that time, at the beginning of autumn, just after summer. The Battle of Tabuk in the 9th year of immigration happened, if we go to see it in the converter, it happened in the month of Rajab for the year 9. For immigration, we see it happening in November. The month of November is not without intensity free, because the hypocrites said even in the text of the Qur'an, their protest was not to be alienated in war, say the war hell is stronger. I mean, the answer came directly from the Quranic text in November. There is no very free explanation, but Rajab, when it is in the month of August, which it is the month of Abu Lahab, then it will be really evil. Iron in the extreme heat, and after 2 months of Rajab, Shaban, Ramadan, I mean 2 months from what? August, September, October, I mean also Ramadan, it comes in the 9th year of immigration with the month of October, which is October, and the Battle of Yarmouk is, which you, my dear brother, mentioned, dated between the Romans and between the Arabs, that it happened in a month, August for the Romans, and the month of Rajab for the Arabs, if Rajab is 15 years old. Peggy Auguste also, 2 months from August will come to you, November, 2 months from Rajab will come to you, Ramadan with him. Ramadan, even in the 15th year of immigration, it came in October. When we see that from year 2 to immigration to the 15th year of immigration, the months correspond to the seasons of the year. It means bad. What Sal depends on. Okay, why is it an increase in disbelief? As it says in the text of the verse, but the bad is an increase in disbelief. There is a mistake in reading the verse. How do you read the verse? Read it by stopping this endowment. What was not added to Hafs's narration from the disobedient? Unfortunately, the endowment is my dears. I mean, if we go to see the history of the writing of the Qur'ans, we see that the writing of the Qur'an took place in the era of Caliph Othman bin Affan. I mean, almost 20 years after the death of the Prophet. In that period, when people were united in their entirety on one reading of the Qur'an, there were only symbols in it. The moment was not in it. What now they say that even the drip does not exist. I mean that there was no dotting or formation or even stopping or even any symbols of the idiom. Tajweed means the symbols in which they find the Quran. All these symbols have been done. The Quranic text developed over the ages to the point Ubayd Allah bin Salam in the year 224 limited the number of Quran reciters from 700 to 70. This means there are differences among the reciters and their recitations. From the 700 reciters, he selected 70 in the year 375 AH. Ibn Mujahid chose 7 from the 70. He wrote his book, The Seven, where he chose 7 reciters from the 70. Ibn al-Jazari in the year 833 AH selected these 7 and chose 2 narrators or 2 narrators from the disciples of each reciter. The number of narrations ended up being 14 and the number of reciters 7. Ibn al-Jazari added 3 new reciters, bringing the total number of reciters to 10 in 833. There were 20 narrations. In the modern era, 4 new reciters were added, along with 8 narrations, totaling 28 narrations for the Qur'an. These Qur'ans differ in formation, intonation, pauses, and beautification. These additions were made after people were unified to read just one during the era of Uthman bin Affan in 30 AH. Formation was introduced in 65 AH by Abu Aswad al-Duwali, while al-Farahidi introduced endowment in 165 AH. As for pausing, not all Qur'ans are the same. They differ where one can stop and where one can't. You have 28 intentions today. You can browse them and see there are differences in all these differences. The endowment should also come in which format, but the intercalation is an increase in an endowment on what? On the 12 months mentioned before. The number of months with God is 12. 2 months on the day of the creation of the heavens and the earth, including 4 wars. So do not oppress them with falsehood, which is until the end of the verse, but the intercalation is to increase it over those things. Why? Because without the intercalation and without adding that increase, the lunar months will not return to their solar or climatic seasons, so the intercalation will increase it. But unbelievers come in disbelief and misuse that increase for their benefit. However, postponement only leads to greater disbelief and misleads. It does not continually mislead. By the way, the narration of Hafs from Asim is the only narration, and there is another narration after those 2. They are the only ones that read the present tense verb as misleading, as it is passive. You should know that all other recitations, like those of Kalon, Warsh, Al-Duri, and Ibn Kathir, and all other recitations, read it as misleading. But when the Quran is read by the unbelievers, it also misleads them. In this scenario, the actor in the reading of Hafs' narration was an object that misled the unbelievers. Hence, the unbelievers were objects in the other recitations, being misled by the unbelievers. There is one deputy actor, the narration of Yaqub al-Hadrami, which Ibn al-Jazari added in the year 833, as Yaqub was an object of the recitations. The 10 from one of the narrators, after adding the 10 readers, after adding 3 readers to the 7, how does Jacob the dummy read it? He stays and not stays. He stays with those who disbelieve here, who they disbelieved. They became an actor, meaning they have no effect. They are the deputy who is an actor, but an actor. And if we really go read the verse and finish it, we will really see those who disbelieved are the ones who did 5 actions. They exist in the middle of the verse, that those who grew up mislead it, to dissolve it for a year and forbid it for a year, to collude with it. God forbid, so they solve what God has forbidden. I mean, all the present tense verbs that are in the body of the verse, the subject, there are those who disbelieved, except in the novel of Hafs, from a scene became an object, or the other novels. An active deputy, are they really an actor or an active deputy or an object by those who grew up to explain for us that they are really on the reading of Yaqub al-Hadmi, they are doing the manipulation of the sanctity of the month. The forgetfulness, if we show him the verse, but the bad increase in disbelief is misguided by those who disbelieve, solve it years, and they deprive him a year to collude with what God has forbidden. The verse became clear with us and explained completely and explains to us exactly what do those who disbelieve do of actions that God does not agree with in the text. And they consider that they are the ones who disbelieved. They are manipulating the sanctity of the most famous sanctuary. Or the sacred month, or the bad month itself, which is the strengthening month. What is our reading of the verse? In this way, you make it clear to us that the bad is really cold now. But your second question, brother, I know that they solve it for a year and forbid it for a year because you said that this is what is going on every year. But it comes every 2 years and 8 months. So why is the text of the verse here saying that not all a year there will be a difference between the year and the sunnah and the squint and the argument and umrah? And all the vocabulary in the Quranic temporal half is specifying to you that there is a difference between this and this. There is a difference between years and years. Every year, years of succession means every year means you. When you have 7 years you want to plant, this means that there is no year within the 7 years. It wants to come a year different from the rest of the years, but here is the year for the relay, so you plant a 7 years. And comes a year of relief. Now, here is the year of relief. It doesn't come every year, but after the expiration of the goods, the years of Baiji are a year called the year of relief, and even the year of the elephant. I mean, not every year, the year of the elephant. The year of the elephant is 1 year in which the invasion came, the Ethiopian who to Mecca, and brought with them the elephant. This was the year of the elephant. Not every year is the year of the elephant, and the year of women does not come every year, but the year of coordination comes in the time of addition. This year, is it the pressing year that's pressing us? It's the 29th of Ramadan, February 29th or February. The pressing year does not come every year, but rather every 4th year. A leap year comes. Likewise, the relative year doesn't come every year, but rather the coordination year comes every 2 years and 8. Months in a year called, they will deprive it a year, and they will deprive it a year. The time when it is added is the pressing year or a year. The pressing year or year, thusly, I would have explained reading the verse for your first question, so we would know what is the surplus in disbelief, and who are those who increase. Is it really that the offender is surplus? You have answered on the subject of the year and the difference between it and age. Go ahead, brother. Well done. Thank you tremendously. We are sorry to cut this short because it's time for the Maghrib prayer, the call to prayer. Maghrib is here and it's nearly 8 o'clock for Anis.